Hello everyone, I'd like to welcome you to today's webinar, What's New in Microsoft Dynamics NAV 2016. We appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule to join us. There are a couple of housekeeping items we'd like to mention before we begin. All attendees are in listen-only mode. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please either raise your hand so that we can unmute your line or submit them through the GoToWebinar question box. We'll be answering questions throughout the presentation and following up after as well. I'd like to introduce today's speaker. We have Tammy Johnson, who is a solutions architect here at Socius. For over 20 years, Tammy has specialized in project management, product engineering, and consulting for Microsoft Dynamics solutions. So at this point, Tammy, I believe we're ready to transition over to you to begin.
Sounds good. Thanks, Cheryl. So hopefully everyone is very excited about NAV 2016. We here at Socius are very excited about it. These are some of the things that we're going to be covering today. There's a lot to this release, and so I'm trying to kind of hit the highlights here, but we'll talk about the web client. Hopefully some of you have at least had some exposure to the NAV web client. We'll talk about reporting, and then I'm going to go into payables, and there are a lot of capabilities that are payable specific but are also kind of global to the application, but I'm going to talk about them in payables. We'll talk about automated exchange rates, some areas of sales that have changed, including native integration with Dynamics CRM, which is pretty exciting, as well as I'm going to talk a little bit about Power BI, possibly introduce the concept to you if it's something that you're not familiar with, and how it works with NAV 2016. So with that, one more thing, I'm trying to standardize my terminology here when I talk about the types of capabilities within NAV. And so when I say configuration, I'm talking about using existing capabilities in NAV, so coding, maybe dimensions or something like that. So no customization and no development involved. When I say customization, I'm talking about user personalization, so things like changing columns, moving things around on the screen, that sort of thing. And then development is, when I say development, I'm talking about, or develop, I'm talking about changing existing functionality, adding new functionality, and using development to automate processes. So I just want to make sure we're on the same page. When I say those things, that's exactly what I mean. All right, so we're going to jump right in here. And I am going to do the entire session today from within the web client. So we've come a long way. They've made over 60 enhancements to the web client in NAV 2016. We're only going to talk about a few of them just because there's no way we can cover them all. But you'll see here the ability, you'll hopefully see some increase in just in overall speed of the web client. But some of the things that are new is the ability to hide your navigation pane, so I can just hide it here and buy a little bit more real estate in my role center. I can also go from the home, which has all of my different areas, the views and things that I've saved in my navigation pane. But I can also switch and access those buttons that we're used to seeing on the lower left of our navigation pane in the Windows client. So that's something new. As well, you'll see it's just kind of better transitions between the different forms and views and lists as you move around. So for example, if I click on vendors, my list of vendors here, you can see that just the transition, the movement between the pages, it's a little more fluid. So if I go back to home, and it looks like I've just maybe had some disruption in my internet connection. So that doesn't help us. Hold on just a second. It'll come back. And here it comes. So I'm going to come back in here to vendors again, and we're going to do this again. Bad timing, sorry guys. Maybe we won't be doing this today. Let's do this. So this is back in the Windows client, and maybe I can skip over some of the web client functions here until my internet comes back more strongly. Let's see here. I'm just going to restart. There we go. So I'm going to go to vendors here, and you can see as I'm moving between my home page and my list of vendors, you can see that the transitions are just more fluid. It's just easier to maneuver around. So previous release of the web client, if you had a list of information and you wanted to see more, you had to click, specifically say, I want to see more. Now it's kind of on demand is what they're calling it. So if you watch the bottom here, when I get to the end, it will say fetching more rows. And again, fetching more rows until I get to the end of the list. So it's just filling in. You might not even notice that, but just be aware that it is doing that for you. The other thing is any freeze panes that I've set in my Windows client will now flow to the web client. So that's important to know as well. And you can see that the transitions, again, between the freeze pane and just as I scroll, it's just a little bit more fluid, a little bit better animation. I can also, you'll notice a little down arrow here next to each of the fields. I can click that down arrow, and if I want, I can choose to hide a column. Hiding the name probably isn't a very good idea. Let's try something else here. Let's go to General Business Posting Group. So I can hide that column if I want, and you can see it immediately goes away. I can also choose columns and do it in bulk. So if I don't really care about payment terms and posting groups and things like that, I can just uncheck them, and you can see now they're not on the screen anymore, and I don't have my scrolling bar here to navigate to the right. So this is the entirety of my list here on my list. So a little bit more personalization is available now within, and so in my terminology that would be customization. So user customization is available now in the web client. Still have my my fact boxes here, and the same capabilities exist. I can come over here and just click the link to open the vendor card, and still, my fact box is here as well. Okay, so then the forms collapse and expand my my fast tabs. So if you're used to only having a couple things open, any customization done in the web client will transfer, in the Windows client will transfer over to the web client for you. So fields, the order of the fast tab, that sort of thing. Well, they've added some what they're calling inline lookups. So for example, if I come into, let's go here, Responsibility Center, and I start typing something, it's going to bring up a list, and as I refine or continue typing, it will refine that list for me. And I can, from here, I can add something new, or I can pull up the full list and pick from that, that full list as well. So lots of good changes, enhancements really to the NAV 2016 web client. The last thing I want to show you about the web client is for those of you who are running multiple companies in NAV and you need to switch around. So prior you couldn't do that in NAV. It's a little bit more difficult in the web client, but now I just came up here and clicked on My Settings, and now you can see I can choose any company that I want. I can switch languages. I can also change my work date, so that's important as well. Again, for those of you who are using that work date to manipulate how things post in NAV. All right, so that's it for the web client. And Cheryl, I'm just going to pause for a second and see if we have any questions.
Okay, let's take a look here. I don't think we do have any questions yet, Tammy.
Okay, I'm just going to keep going, and jump in and interrupt me if something, if it starts to stack up.
Okay.
And I can stop. We can be flexible.
Sounds good.
All right, the next area that I'm going to cover is about reporting, and specifically report 25, and that's your account schedule. First of all reports in NAV are now 8.5 by 11, so they fit on 8.5 by 11 paper, so no more of those funky paper sizes. But specific to report 25, which is your account schedule, in NAV 2015 and prior, you would end up with an account schedule that looks like this. And if you actually looked at the properties of that report, it's some funky page size. Don't even know where they got that, but that's the page size. It's supposed to be 8.5 by 11, I think, but that's the page size. If you look at NAV 2016, however, that same account schedule, and I literally copied and pasted from one to the other. That's how I got those account schedules. This is the exact same account schedule. You can see that it's landscape, and it's 11 by 8.5. So it's using its standard US paper sizes instead of non-standard paper sizes. All right. So in NAV 2015, we did have the ability to do some, and I'm going to hide this here for now. We did have the ability to do report layouts in Word, and so you can do that in NAV 2016 as well. But you can also, let's just open the Canon group here. Let's do that. You can then apply those layouts now specifically to a customer. So here I've got a customer statement, and you can see here from the customer's perspective all of the different documents that you can define and assign specifically to a customer. So if you have a customer that won't pay unless their invoice is laid out in a certain way, you could set up that specific invoice for them. And you can see I've got an email assigned here. You can set it up so that when you generate an invoice or when you print an invoice, it'll actually send it through email. So that's a pretty big enhancement to the way that we manage these documents, these customer-facing documents. So as well, this same capability of being able to assign specific documents to specific customers, specific document layouts to specific customers, also applies to the vendor remittance form, including the ability to email. So when you generate a remittance form for a vendor, you can actually choose to send that through email, which if you're using the ACH, you could almost be paperless in your payables process. All right. So with that, we are going to transition to payables, unless any questions sitting there, Cheryl?
Nope, no questions.
Okay. Then I'm going to keep going here. So NAV 2016 now has a new capability to send your electronic payables invoices to an OCR, or optical character recognition service, allow that service to read that invoice and send the data back to NAV as a payables invoice. And this is actually done through Lexmark, and Microsoft has come up with what they call freemium program, where up to 75 invoices a month can be processed at no charge. And after that 75, when you hit that 76th invoice, it's 96 cents per invoice. So there are also multiple subscription options. And that's based on invoice volume. And I did some calculations, and the point at which it becomes better for you to use a subscription is at 181 invoices. That's where you're going to hit this 101.17, and it's less expensive to go to the subscription model. But 75 invoices a month, if you're getting 75 invoices electronically, that's a good place to start. You can also scan them. You can even use the mobile app, and I'll give you a screenshot of what that might look like here in just a second. But there are 3 ways that you can submit an invoice. Through the web client, through the Windows client, you just upload and attach and send it to the service, or through the mobile app, which I mentioned. There's an email when you set up your service for the first time. They'll provide you with an email address that you can email those invoices to as well. And so what that means is you can have your vendors email their invoices directly to the OCR service, and what you get back is a translated invoice. So that's pretty powerful. No opening envelopes, no paper comes in your door. It's all the image of the invoice that's sent either by you or by your vendor to the service. And then you can do a direct upload kind of on the back end to the service as well. So using the mobile, the new universal mobile app for NAV, you can see on the left there, that's a screenshot directly from my my iPhone. And you can see that we've got in the lower left-hand corner, create incoming document from camera. You can take a picture of any document that you want. It doesn't have to be an invoice. It can even be, you can be at a customer and you can take a picture of their purchase order to you, and it will land then in this incoming documents area. And you can use this as a staging point for sending your documents to the OCR service, creating or sending it through an approval process using the new workflow engine in NAV, or you can use it to create a new document. So it might be a sales order that you're creating. That's not going to go through the OCR service, but it's going to have that document then attached to it. And this is a way that you can create a process really using these incoming queues. All right, so we're going to kind of dig into a lot of new functionality right now. I'm going to talk about the OCR process, and we'll take a look at that, as well as a few other things. So we're going to be kind of focusing and staying in payables right now. So you can see in my Accounting Manager Role Center, I've got this incoming documents queue, and I've got one new one, and I can click on that, and this is actually the image of that I took a picture of with my iPhone. So we're going to go ahead and open this record. And actually we'll just, yeah. Well, we were doing okay, and then we weren't. So I'm going to go ahead and just open this, and I can click on the attachment and view that attachment if I want to. So that's it. That's the really poor photo that I took with my iPhone, and I could actually upload this and send this to the OCR service if I wanted to. I could also, if I wanted to, once this comes in here, I could send an approval request, and then based on whatever rules I had defined for the workflow for this kind of a document, it would go ahead and send that through the approval process. I'm going to go back to my home page because I have one that's kind of already working here. It's been approved. It's actually, so it came in and I sent it to the OCR service, and then I received it back from the OCR service. And if I want to, I can open this up and review it. One thing that I see here in my process is that I don't keep track of purchase tax. I only keep track of just the total invoice amount. So I pay my invoices net of sales tax. So I can easily come in here and correct the OCR data, and I can say, you know, the sales tax amount is 0, and I can do 82.42, and that's done. So now I've made the change here. I also have the ability to send this back to the OCR service just to train them, to teach them, you know, what I want to do on this kind of a document. The next thing that I would do here, again, if it was part of my process, I could send this for approval, but I can create the document. Notice that I can create a journal line as well. So you could come in here and you know, with a snapshot of some journal entry or something, and you could create a journal also. We're just going to click Create Document, and notice it says Purchase Invoice 1021 has been created. So from here, if I go to my purchase invoices just on my navigation pane, here's the invoice, and we can review that invoice. Hopefully. Bad day for connectivity today. There we go. And so here it is. Now the gotcha on this is the distribution lines, you can map them to a single line. So if you've got some that have multiple general ledger distributions, if you need to have multiple lines, you're going to need to come in here and make some changes to it. I have a feeling that will be coming, but for version 1, this is what we have. As well, purchase POs are not supported at this time. So your PO matching process will have to be the same as it is today. So being able to receive an invoice, doing that invoice process on your purchase orders. But I think it gets them into a process, completes the basic information, and if you need to, now notice I've got send approval request here as well. If you need to have additional approvals done, either on the image of the invoice or once it gets into NAV, you can use that incoming documents and the OCR service to kick off that process and save you some time as well. So I understand that that was a lot to take in. It's a completely new concept, and so I want to pause and see if we have any questions at this point.
We don't, Tammy.
All right, then we'll just keep going. So the next thing that I want to talk about, we're just going to look at this Excel insurance invoice, is the concept of revenue and expense deferrals, and actually recognizing the revenue and recognizing the expense. So prior to NAV 2016, we typically would book the entry and then record a recurring entry kind of as a separate process to do that either revenue recognition or expense recognition. With NAV 2016, we can now create deferral codes and use those deferral codes as a way to drive the that process. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pretend that I'm going to create a new deferral code and show you what that looks like. So my deferral account would be typically, it's going to be a balance sheet account. And I've got my recognition account here in my line. So in the case of an expense, it's going to at whatever frequency, whatever method I determine, it's going to book the amount to be recognized to the expense account that I indicate on the line. And if it's a sales invoice, then it's going to be the revenue account. In this case, it's an expense account, but it's whatever account we want it to be. How much of this am I deferring? What method am I using? And then how am I starting this? How many periods, and then what am I saying? What's my description for that particular line? And so what happens is when I go to post this, I can, if I look at my posting preview, new capability in NAV, this is in every posting form, you'll see this preview posting. And what this is allowing me to do here is see all of the entries, the GL entries that are being posted. So I'm going to click on that, and we're actually going to resort this by posting date just so it's a little clearer here. So when I post this, $120 is going to go to prepaid insurance, my 1315 account, and $120 is going to go to my payable account, and then it's going to take $10 out of prepaid insurance and put it to prepaid expense. And it's going to continue to do that for every month. It's going to post this entry, post it all. When I post my invoice, it's going to post it all at once, so I don't have to worry about it. And there are setups that you can that you can take configuration items that options that you can choose how you want to handle posting to a closed period, because you are posting into future periods. In my opinion, maybe there's a process that happens where someone else does posting who has access to those periods using the user configuration, the ability to restrict those periods. But the bottom line is, once you do this, you don't have to worry about it. It's done. You don't have to go back and remember to post those recurring entries. You don't have to remember to do any of it. And keep in mind as well that if you need to review what something's going to look like before you post it, you can use this new posting preview function. And that's true not just for Payables, but throughout NAV. Okay, so I've kind of hinted about this a little bit as we've been going through everything today, but I want to talk for a minute about workflow. Again, this is brand new. In prior releases of NAV, we were able to submit sales orders and purchase orders for approval. That's been extended quite a bit. And so my example here is a purchase invoice. So here I'm able to, when I create the purchase invoice, send the approval request. And then based on the rules, it will define how that's going to be pushed through the process. So in this case, the rules state that the person, me, who entered this invoice cannot post it because of the rules that are imposed by the that particular workflow. And in this case, it's my approval limit's like $200, or my limit's like $200, and this is a $1,000 invoice. So I would need to send this for approval. If I tried to post it, this is the message that I would get. So it forces a process based on the rules that you define. You can generate an email, and in this case, this is the email that was sent about that exact invoice. And this requires your approval. To view the record, choose the link. You click the link and it opens up the web client. Notice send approval request is not available. But I do have the ability, this particular individual has the ability to approve, reject, delegate, add comments, etc. There are a number of templates that come out of the box, and what I just showed you, that's a standard template that I used. I didn't change anything. This is configuration, but there is some I guess, database structure and a little bit of programming knowledge that you need to have just to be able to do this. So it's probably something that we could teach you to do, but you probably need to get us involved initially, at least to understand how it works. But these are the templates, and you can see a lot more than just purchase order and sales order. General journal line approval, I think that's kind of interesting. So you have to approve a line on a journal before the entire batch can be posted. So one more thing that I did not mention while we're here in Payables, I'm going to bring up my invoices again, just so that, and this is actually a kind of a big one, so I'm kind of bummed out that I skipped it. But if you look on any of your forms that have lines on them, you will now see this subtotal area, the document totals. So you can see any discounts, you can see the total invoice amount. So if there's multiple lines, that's going to show what's your tax and then what's the total. And this will show it'll show on purchase orders, sales orders, sales invoices, purchase invoices, anything that has lines. A document that has lines, it will show you the document totals. And Cheryl, I hear you. I have a feeling we might have a question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we do. He's asking, would we need Zeta Docs fax with NAV 2016?
If you want to fax things, then you probably would still need that.
And that's it for right now.
Okay. All right. So again, don't forget about this document totals area. That's pretty important. Okay, let's do this. I'm going to go back to my home page here. There's a couple of things in check processing that I want to talk about. So this is a payment journal, and the first thing that I want to point out here is the ability to generate this vendor prepayment journal. So before you try to print, before you try to post, before you do anything, you can pull this in, and we'll just do 2/15/17, and generate your prepayment journal and look at exactly how any errors or warnings that might come up as a result. So Bank payment types, so this is related to multi-currency. If you don't have multi-currency, you probably have never seen this error, but you can see I've got some issues here that I need to resolve before I can finish this process. And I know this before I generate the check, or before I try to generate the check. So that's kind of a nice new thing that we have. As well, and I think most significant, is positive pay export. Now, for those of you who don't know what positive pay is, it is a service offered by your bank, and they will charge you for this. I'll just tell you that, where when you generate payments to your vendors, typically through a check, whatever solution you use to generate those checks or those payments creates a file that you then upload to your bank, and then when those checks are presented for payment, they'll compare to that file. And if there's a difference or if there's something that's not on the file, they will not honor that check. So it's fraud prevention for sure, it works. I mean, I've seen examples over and over again of attempted fraud completely stopped by using positive pay. So I've just clicked on that positive pay export, and not only will it send the bank checks that you've written, it will send voided entries as well. So I generated 2 checks and then voided them, and that's important because if I generate checks and I void them and someone takes the voided check and tries to present it to the bank for payment, if the bank shows it as being valid, then they would be able to pay the check. But if I send them a notification that it's been voided, then when that came through, they would know that that was an attempted fraudulent activity, and they would stop. They would not honor that check. So checks and voids. A couple of important things to know. Out of the box, this comes with the ability to access both the file layout for Bank of America as well as for Citibank. So, and this is a configuration activity. So there is an actual setup area where you can set up your positive pay. As I said, Bank of America and Citibank come out of the box. You can set up your own bank, or we can help you, obviously, with that as well. But, not a development activity. This is a configuration, a setup activity. And there are, you'll want to go through a process with your bank. They're going to have a process that you have to follow in order to bring this online. They'll want samples and things like that to make sure that it, conforms to their layouts. But it does give you the ability to configure this instead of having to have it developed every time there's a change. Something else, I'm not going to show you this. I'll just tell you, kind of along those same lines. With regard to exchange rates, NAV now has an automatic exchange rate upload, and that's through Yahoo. You can set up additional ones if you want, but it's through Yahoo out of the box. Anything that you set up additional, the data exchange layout, that file layout, it's configuration as opposed to development. So we're starting to standardize on some different areas of NAV using outside services with the ability to use configuration as opposed to development to create new layouts. Okay. I am going to move on to sales here. Cheryl, you can interrupt me if we have any questions.
Okay, I will.
Any questions right now?
Nope, no, none right now.
Okay. Okay. So moving into the sales area, let me make sure I didn't miss any slides here. Nope, let's go back. So I am going to show you my navigation pane here. You'll see, I'm sorry, my fact boxes. You'll see a new area here within sales on your customers, and that is the ability to view Dynamics CRM, which is the Microsoft CRM solution. It is a full customer relationship management, sales, service, and marketing. So you can see opportunities. I can see any CRM generated quotes as well as service cases. So customer service issues that might come up that are being tracked through CRM. This is a native integration. There is no middleware required for this integration. I have just done the basic integration. You can share physical documents. So when an order is generated in CRM, you can push that order into NAV. When an invoice is generated in NAV, you can push that invoice back from NAV to CRM. You can create a customer in CRM and have it automatically land in NAV. So, and you decide how those handshakes happen and you know, which solution owns them, if they're bidirectional, one way, whatever. The beauty of this is I can click on this, for example, an opportunity, and it's going to show me what the opportunity is. I can go click that opportunity and open it right up in Dynamics CRM. So this is the bicycles opportunity for the Canon group. I'm able to see all of the CRM activities that have happened. So here's a couple of phone calls that have happened. Here's an internal task that's defined that I need to complete. So, you know, the idea is if you are in CRM and in NAV, you don't have to bounce back and forth. They're living together, they're coexisting. And even to the point, so I'm going to go into my Canon group account. So that would be in CRM language, an account is typically a customer. You can see NAV information, and if you're a salesperson or someone who is an account manager, this is important information to have. You know, what's the balance on the account? How many sales orders do they have outstanding? What's the service activities that they have outstanding? Where are they with their credit limit? What's overdue? What are their total sales? So just lots of information that is just being pushed automatically from Dynamics NAV to Dynamics CRM. Again, without the need for any middleware. The integration activities are happening in NAV. It's through NAV. So I'm going to come back in here. All right, Cheryl, do we have any questions? Oh, I'm going to, hold on just a second. I just want to show you, I'm in the list here, but if I actually open the customer, you can see that information, that CRM information here as well. And there's actually a whole new area of the ribbon that relates to CRM. So, you know, there's a process for getting everything set up and configured, but once you get it set up, it just runs. Okay, so now I'm ready to pause for questions again.
Okay, it doesn't look like there are any questions right now.
Okay. So I'm going to go back out to my slide deck here, and I want to talk for a minute about Power BI because this is an important topic when we're talking about NAV 2016. Power BI is a business intelligence tool that's offered by Microsoft. It is online services and features It allows you to visualize data so you can create, charts and reports and things like that, share them. PowerBI.com is where this information comes from. It's an online service. And again, we get into that whole freemium concept. There is a point at which you exceed the free version, and you would need to upgrade to a paid license, which is $9.99 a month, and that's a named user. Keep in mind that you may have some users who can use the free and some who would need to have the $9.99 a month. So it just depends on the amount of data that they're consuming, how often it needs to be refreshed. And that's really it. If you've got individuals who are reviewing information once a month, the free one might be enough for them. If you've got individuals that are in viewing information all day, every day, they might need to have the paid subscription or that paid license. So the way that we bring the information into NAV is through what's called a content, or through NAV information through to Power BI is through what's called a content pack. And you just connect up your NAV implementation with that content pack, and within a couple of minutes, this is what you get. I mean, it literally, this is what you get. And you can change this. You can add new functions. This is the straight out of the box dashboard. Keep in mind that Socius has a full business intelligence practice. Our people know how to do this, and can these kind of standard dashboards. If there are additional panes of information that you want that's not contained in the out of the box and you can't figure out how to do it, we have, like I said, a full team. This is what they do, is they create business intelligence solutions for our clients based on Power BI. So now we have about 10 minutes. That's what I had prepared to talk to you about today, and so I want to pause. If you have questions, now's your chance. You can also, I guess I'll turn it over to Cheryl, and then we'll get to my contact slide.
Sure. And to remind everyone, to submit your questions, you can either type them into the question box there on your GoToWebinar panel, or if you just click your hand, it'll raise your hand and I can unmute your line so that you can ask it over the phone. On this slide here, we're just talking about our upcoming events and current promotions that can be found on our site. We've been building a NAV 2016 blog series as we see things come out. And so you can find that at socius1.com/tag/NAV 2016. So keep an eye on that, and we'll be continuing to post as new things on the release come out. And we wanted to also mention that in case you weren't already aware, Microsoft will be increasing their additional user pricing on January 1st. So this affects those of you on NAV, module-based licensing, and business-ready licensing. So if you think you'll need to purchase any additional users, make sure you go ahead and do that before the first of the year so that you get that pricing benefit. And on the next slide, it has Tammy's contact information. So we will stay on the line here. It looks like there aren't any questions right now, but if anything does come up afterwards that you think of, her direct contact information is listed there on the screen now for you. And we'll stay on here another couple of minutes in case you are typing anything into the box right now.